where we talk with bold, curious retirees who are finally doing what they always wanted to do, or maybe something they never thought of before. I'm your host, Cathy Paessun, a semi-retired woman on my own post working for other people journey. Today, we're visiting with T.C. Brown, the author of Made in Taiwan, a book about his time as a very young man in the armed services in Asia. TC, thank you so much for joining us today, and hello.
Of course, yeah, happy to do it. Yeah, how are you? I'm glad we got this together.
Yes. Oh, I know. I know. I'm embarrassed, but the technology side of the adventure continues to be kind of
I know.
a threat. But
We're talking, aren't we? We're talking.
we are now. Well, TC, I can't wait to talk about your book because, first of all, and I'll say this a couple of times, you didn't just write a book, you wrote a memoir. And I think that is an incredibly brave thing to do. But before we get into that, this is Reinventing Retirement. So tell us a little bit about what you did, pre-retirement.
Oh yeah, sure. I was in the military, of course, for about 7 years during the Vietnam era, and I ended up. My last station was Northern California, the Bay Area, and so I ended up staying there for like 10 years, getting an education. Graduated from San Francisco State with a journalism degree. Worked briefly on a paper out there, and then the recession in I think it was '82 hit, and so I grew up in Columbus, and I had been gone 15 years, of course with visits, but so I came back here. Ended up like the territory looked a little more promising here. In fact, I was offered a job, and so I did move back, and it was a big deal, but I'm glad I did. At first, I wasn't so sure because I won't mention the paper I went to, but didn't work out too well, and I wasn't there really long. But so I got on the Citizen Journal, the morning paper here in Columbus, and I worked there for 3 years till it closed. I was the last City Hall reporter. Then I ended up down at the Kentucky Post for a couple years. Came back up here at the Dispatch on accent. Covered exciting things like hunts for Bigfoot and where's the best patio bar in the summer. They were tough assignments.
The important stuff.
Exactly, exactly. So then in '89, I was hired at the Cleveland Plain Dealer at the State House Bureau here in Columbus, and I worked there for about 18 years. Um, Took a buyout at '06. Got in a Kiplinger Fellowship program at Ohio State when social media was just coming out, and I studied social media, which was new, kind of new, and climate change. I was working with climate change scientists, which really got my attention, and the things they were predicting we're seeing now, only they thought it would be a few more years. So that's something to take pause on. But at any rate, that I started my own business with a couple of guys, and it didn't go great. But I did a lot of freelance stuff, and then I got an opportunity to teach journalism at Ohio Wesleyan. So I taught there for almost 8 years, and left it in the middle of the COVID year. We ended up teaching. COVID broke out on spring break, and they shut everything down, and we had a week
Yeah.
to learn Zoom and then teach on Zoom. And oh boy, was that fun! Not,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, not. So that's yeah. And then I just I thought, okay, I'm ready, and so but I still write magazine pieces now and then for monthly, Columbus Monthly, not too often anymore, but and I'm working on another book, and I'm writing some music because I just started guitar up 3 years ago, and so yeah, I'm having fun.
Yeah, I know no one who isn't doing something. That was said very backwards, but I mean,
That's good.
retirement, in my opinion, retirement, I think isn't what people think it is, and that's why
Hmm.
I love talking to people about how they're doing retirement. Before we get away from it, what was your favorite part of your work life? Was there anything you hated having to leave behind?
Well, I mean, I really love journalism. I mean, to be honest, I got in that by taking one of those interest tests. I don't know what the technical term, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. Yeah, I was going to be a junior, and I in college, and I thought, geez, I got to figure it out. And that and English teacher and musician were like the top three things. And I thought, that sounds interesting. And for me, it was a great career. I mean, I loved it. I met some amazing people. Did some pretty important stories. But I'll be honest, after 25 years, I was ready to go because, people always say, why is the news so negative? And well, we don't write about the planes that land, right?
Yeah,
So
right.
that's what it's about for the most part.
Yeah, it is. Did
But it
you
was fun.
ever, yeah, did you imagine retirement while you were working, or did retirement just come to you?
Um, no, nothing deep, I mean, although I did, one thing, I always thought that once I retired, I would move near a beach. But now knowing what I know about climate change, nah, living near a beach, probably not a great idea.
Yeah,
Especially down the road. I mean, things are kind of okay now, but you're seeing it. I mean, we see all the destruction that some of these
yeah.
hurricanes come in and stuff, and I don't want this to be a downer podcast, but it's people need to wake up to the truth, man. We're heading for some bad stuff from what I learned a number of years ago, but you know,
Yeah, I have to admit, Columbus, Ohio has never looked so good. I mean,
yeah,
we're in a great place. We really are.
yeah, we
We're,
got a lot of fresh water too. We got fresh water nearby. That's gonna be a good thing down the road.
exactly, exactly. So, so going back to that transition, I think the transition to retirement, it can be a bigger deal for some people than for others. Go back to that. Tell me about that actual transition to I'm not working for other people anymore.
Oh yeah, well, yeah, I liked it. I mean, I didn't have trouble working for people, and even like editors, you had good editors, you had bad editors, and sometimes good editors make changes that make your story better, right? And bad editors will put their own voice in it and doesn't necessarily improve. So, but, I got along with everybody pretty much, and so yeah, I when I left the newspaper business, it was like, oh, God, what a relief in a way, unfortunately, that year I went through some personal stuff with my family, and I mean, it all works out in the end. But I was glad to have that time because I wasn't really working, and the buyout from the plain dealer was decent enough that I think I had medical for half a year at least, and I
Yeah,
was getting paid for I think almost a year if I remember correctly. But
fabulous.
oh, yeah, that was great. And then, for me, it was like jumping into new things. Like that's the way it's kind of worked out because then I got accepted into the Kiplinger program. Actually, I was helping them out because somebody dropped at the last minute and they needed a body. So I was available and then, just doing different things. I mean, when I was freelancing, sometimes I would think, oh man, I hope I get a client soon. And somebody always threw me a life preserver, I like my daughters had told me, Dad, you keep reinventing yourself. That's a nice compliment.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I imagine that'll continue. So let's talk about transitioning into actually the new pursuit, the book. So you'd kind of been doing your thing for a while. When did writing a memoir start to form?
Well, the memoir part, not until just before I did it, but I had been thinking about a book for a long time because, I was there at a volatile time, 60, I think people probably don't know, but, I went to Taiwan when I was 18 and I didn't come back to the States except for two early on visits. I didn't come back to the States till I was 23. So, that's a lot of grown up years there. And that was during the late 60s and early 70s. And, anybody in my age range will know that that was a volatile time and a lot of stuff going on. I saw a lot of crazy stuff. As I confess in the book, participated in some of it. You don't think too deeply when you're a youngster and you think, I'm going to live forever. And as long as you're not hurting anybody.
Yeah, so here you are, you're just doing your thing, and then you decided to write a book, and then you decided it was a memoir. Tell me about that.
Yeah, well, I would tell people stories over the years, the like different things I saw or experienced, and especially people knowing I was a writer. They said, "Oh, why don't you write about this?" And I did think about it. I started like different outlines a couple of times. I could never figure out how to do it. Do I do it like a first person fictional, or do I make up characters? And nothing ever felt comfortable. And then let's see, probably in it would have been was it after COVID or before? Somewhere around that time zone, my wife said something. I think it might have been before COVID. It was like 2019. She said something about, we were talking about it. I was telling her something. I think she suggested memoir. And I thought, I never thought about that, be honest, because I thought, first of all, why would somebody want to read my memoir? But,
Mm.
I started researching it, and, I read some good memoirs, and I thought, yeah, that seems natural because, it's natural. So I did. Yeah, it took me a couple years. But Mary was a stellar editor and a great writer. And so after she read it the first time, and she had great suggestions, and she said, "Oh, you should publish this." So that okay, I used her as a kind of a guide, because originally it was just going to be a legacy. I have twin daughters, that are now 40, but I was going to leave it for them, just this is why your dad's half crazy. Now,
No, that's amazing and fascinating. And so like, had you written any of it before? Or, had you thought about it through the years and maybe collected a little bit of it? And also, before we go anywhere else, if you happen to have the book, I apologize, I do not. You could read the title and, more importantly, read the subtitle, because it provides so much information about what you're writing about.
sure, sure. Well, I'll do that last part first. So the title is, and here's the book.
Love it.
Title is Made in Taiwan, Naive Americans' Chaotic Journey to Manhood in an Exotic Culture During Radical Times.
Kind of sums it up.
Yeah, it took me a while to come up. Even the title, like, I just struggled with the title. And then, I don't know, one day it hit me. It's like, oh, Made in Taiwan. Well, I was kind of made in Taiwan. Growing up years, four of them were in Taiwan. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. So
but
did you
yeah,
start writing? Yeah. Did you start writing any of it before you started writing all of it?
yeah, not really. I mean, only when I was exploring different genres, and I did
Oh.
write out a few pages. Like at one point I had like myself, well, it wouldn't have been me, two characters made up, but at my age running into each other at a bar unannounced, and then making that connection, and then they reminisce about, that's a good way to get into a past story. And I like that idea, but and I did write some stuff. So yeah, I guess I did write some of it, but not quite like this, not quite
Uh-huh.
like this. But I use real incidents, I use real incidents for sure.
Right. Yeah. So from your book, all of us have our impression of the Vietnam War. I think I was 13 when it ended. And what do you hope people get from it? Not that I want to jump to conclusions or anything, but especially as you were writing, was there something in particular that you really wanted to impart to people, thinking maybe, especially for the people who weren't there, what did you want them to know?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I think a lot of things really. I mean, there was a lot of stuff going on. I mean, first of all, like, I can't say for everybody, but I know a lot of guys went to Vietnam for patriotic reasons. That was kind of part of what I did, and there was, selfish reasons too, as I did explain in the book. But once you got there after a couple of weeks, like, why are we here? Like, meaning Americans, why are we here? Not, me and this other guy. And yeah, just, it was almost like an instinctual thing. And, the military, is the military. And, they do some goofy stuff sometimes. And, but for the entire time period, there was a lot going on. Like over in the States, there was a lot of racial issues going on. There was a lot of drug abuse and alcohol abuse, and, guys were 8,000 miles from home, and, they're young, and they're looking for a release. Now we didn't have a whole ton of tension on at in Taiwan, on the base in Taiwan. We were a support base for Vietnam, so a lot of the cargo planes and stuff. Taiwan was the home base where I was at. I was actually in the middle of Taiwan near a city called Taichung, and the base was everybody called it CCK because it's Ching Chuang Kong. It's the
Oh,
name of the
yeah.
base. So
Uh-huh.
CCK is way easier.
Yes.
So, but then the even the whole drug thing, guys, because of a crackdown on pot coming in, guys started doing heroin, and people were ODing, and just
Mm.
like I said. So I think people don't, they don't understand, and I a lot of I've gotten some pretty good reviews on the book, and including the Taipei Times, and a lot of it's coming out like honesty, and people are saying that's a good thing, which are, I did try to, I think I told you when we talked earlier that I read that thing probably 14 times. And the last time I read it before I knew it was going to get published, I was like, maybe I want to delete this and that, But I honestly, I did not take out a word, but I wanted to because I
Uh-huh.
do, I'm kind of hanging it out there a little bit. But that's okay.
Yeah.
It's true. And
And
it wasn't
it's
just me, wasn't just me.
right. And it's 50 years later. So let's go back to what was going on in the States. Was the base a little bit of a microcosm of that? Because, I mean, here it was like you would characterize it as like, I don't know, hippies versus conservatives. Well, people in the military, I think we assume are maybe a little more leaning on the conservative side. So did you have the same kind of tensions around
Oh
issues
yeah.
that were going on here?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, we call them lifers, the people that are going to stand for 20 years. That was a term for them. And a lot of those guys would come under that umbrella. And then the younger guys, not all, but certainly more of, you'll probably find more liberal bent in younger guys than the older guys. But, a lot of guys came from different parts of the country where they're very conservative, even younger guys. But then you also had the division, the juicers. These were the guys that drank, right? And the heads, those were the guys that smoked pot. And sometimes the two didn't like each other a whole lot. Then you had the racial, there were racial divisions. Now, I didn't see it when I first went over there. I didn't see it too much. Uh, I don't remember much, if any, at all. But when I got back, I went to Vietnam in 70. And when I got back right toward the end of 70 and was back in Taichung and Town Patrol, then I saw it a lot more. And it was unfortunate, but even there was, that stuff even went on between the Chinese and black soldiers. Some of the Chinese would be prejudiced. There were certain areas that, like the black soldiers hung out. There was a little bar town, it was called, and that was kind of, not that only black soldiers hung there, but that was like the main thing. And then it was called the Dirty Dozen down in downtown Taichung. That's where everybody went. It was probably about 3 blocks of bars. Adult Disneyland.
Yeah. As you were putting the book together, were there any memories that either particularly surprised you or that hit you differently? Obviously, looking at them with approximately 50 years of experience.
Yeah. Let me just say one thing about that, because people have asked me like, "Oh, that was 50 years ago. How do you remember stuff from 50?" I said, "Heck, I was there 5 years. I don't remember everything from every day, but I certainly remember the big stuff. The stuff where you do dumb stuff, or you almost get killed, or this, that, and the other, that stays with you. Plus, I tracked down. I was still in touch with 2 or 3 guys from those days. Not often, but I had their numbers. I tracked down another half dozen at least. There's a funny story about that I can tell you later. But uh, the one thing that surprised me, I had more records than I thought, because I just hadn't looked at them in a long time, and including, so when I got to Taiwan a few months after, I fell in love and wanted to get married, and I didn't tell my parents until I only had a few months left. And so I wrote him a letter. They didn't even know I was dating anybody. So I knew that was going to be woof. And you know what? I found that letter and their answer, which was that blew me away. That was great because I could use that, and quote from it directly.
How fabulous.
Yeah, that was very cool. So yeah, I had and sometimes I really had to think. Sometimes the guys I had reached out, I would ask them because I knew they had seen it or been around it, like
Uh-huh.
like one guy, he learned how to speak Mandarin when we were there, and he's married to a Taiwanese girl, and I don't think he lives there anymore, but he knows, he knew that area very well. He filled me in on some spots that were, foggy.
Mhm. Mhm. Were there parts that were particularly hard to write? I mean, like, emotionally hard?
Yeah, there was. So the other thing I did when I was writing is I found some website that you could play song like rhythm and blues and rock and roll from 68, from 69, from like the 100 top hits.
Oh
So as
my
I was
gosh.
yeah, so as I was writing, I was playing that music. And
Oh,
that really helped bring me back, to be honest. I
takes you
mean, I
right
really
back.
yeah, I saw some scenes that like, oh yeah, or I just had feelings that, that the music would trigger. And I think that happens with everybody. People have certain songs that they relate to and at a certain time in their life. And so
Mhm.
that helped a lot. I mean, that really helped a lot. So yeah, I enjoyed it, and I would, like I said, it took 2 years. It's a lot of work. Writing a
Mhm.
book's not easy, but why not? You know.
Mhm. Mhm. And then, when I'm jumping forward a little bit, but I do believe you, sent it to some editors, but wound up deciding to self-publish. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah. So, buddy, a colleague of mine, Jack Torrey, who's written several books, some about Cleveland baseball, and he's retired. He's in D.C., and he was the bureau chief for the Dispatch in Washington, D.C., but he used to work on the CJ. Known him a long time, but he turned me on to his agent, and I sent it to her, and she got back to me and says, when I saw this, I thought I'll give it a try just because Jack, and I thought it was going to be about the military, and I'm not in the military. Nobody in my family's been in the military, and I could really relate to this. And she says, "Here's the problem: nobody knows who you are, so the publishing houses are going to say, why do we want to get his memoir? Who's going to buy? They want to make money, and I guess there's been a big conglomeration of publishing houses, and there's only a few big ones now. Anyway, I got a contract with her for a year, and she sent it out to 13 publishing houses. We heard back from 10 who, various forms said no thanks. Only one kind of upset me. I told my wife, "Oh, they think I suck." She goes, "They didn't say that. They didn't, and they really didn't quite say that. But in my mind, they said that I sucked." So anyway, I just decided, like, why not self-publish? I spent all this time, and so yeah, yeah, that's why I ended up doing that. And I found great, actually, through John McGorry, who I know you've talked to. He turned me on to this lady in Newark, and yeah, they're great. Emily Hitchcock, yeah, they're great.
Wonderful. So going back to the story, as you were putting it together, you start out an 18-year-old and you wind up obviously at the end of the tour older. Was there a point at which during your journey, either at the time or possibly even as you were writing it now, where you realized, oh, that was kind of my pivot point from being a young man to a man? Does anything stand out, or was it, yeah, kind of the entire journey?
Yeah, there's that's a good question. I can't say that there's any particular point where like there was an instant change. I
Hmm.
think it was sort of gradual, and as I would experience things. I mean, I found parts of myself that I'm not proud of, to be honest, and I tell on myself in the book, and uh, I did some pretty crazy stuff. And thankfully everything worked out. You know, yeah, I did some uh, probably looking back, stupid stuff when I was in Vietnam. I worked in this I worked in this underground command post, well, not a tactical operations center, where with army guys and the Vietnam army guys and the militias and the popular forces. Mainly, I was the only Air Force guy. Like I was the intel, so if the base would get hit, we would all coordinate. And every day I had to type up um, intel reports. But a lot of if we weren't getting attacked, and we did get attacked about a dozen times while I was there, but if we weren't getting attacked, it was pretty boring. But that's great for a guy that likes to read. So there's one. I have one picture, like I'm in this white T-shirt, kicking back. I've got a book, and like working hard. But so being young and dumb, we had a helicopter squadron right there, and they would fly resupply missions into the fire bases where they had all your artillery. And at night they did something called Firefly. So Firefly was a helicopter with these big C-130 landing lights on it, and there was a machine gunner next to it. And above it, you had a Cobra gunship, kind of out of sight. And I flew in the light ship, the target ship, and you would be sometimes just above the treetops, shining these lights in on and off. That's why they call it a firefly, trying to find, VC. And if you saw anything, or if they saw anything, they'd do a down and out, and the Cobra would come in, and it has like miniguns, rockets, and one time they did see something. I think it was probably like an animal, but so I got to see a Cobra do that, and oh man, the firepower was just mind blowing. It is just mind.
Wow.
Yeah. So so
Yes.
times like that, I'm thinking, what am I doing? And one time, now I was off that night. I don't know if any of the other guys ever did it. I don't remember if we ever talked about it, but one of the light ship almost got shot down. And I just decided that I was smart enough then to say, yeah, I don't need to do this, because I think had my superiors known I was doing that, I'd have probably got in trouble because I'm not supposed to be on the choppers. But the army guys didn't care. Yeah, you want to come along, you knucklehead, jump aboard. So,
Oh my gosh. So during that time, we know you were in love. So tell us about the relationships that meant the most to you, that formed you as a person when you were over there.
yeah, well, one of them. So, we'll break it down quickly. I got there in August '68, and from August to January, I was guarding airplanes. That was my job. We had C-130s, KC-135s, occasionally a 50 B-52 would come in. So anyway, it was, you worked different shifts, and it was all well and good, but I'm sure I wasn't crazy about it, but I must have done something right because they called me in and they said, we're going to send you to town patrol. Well, town patrol, you worked off base, you lived off base, you got more money, and it was like a regular cop's job, like law enforcement. And your main thing was the Dirty Dozen. We patrolled the Dirty Dozen every day. We had our vans out there and stuff like that. So that was very cool. And when I first started there, a guy by the name of Alvin Hoover, he was from Lexington, North Carolina. And, we started having fun together. We worked together, and there was an album out by the Supremes and the Temptations called Taking Care of Business. And he's just started, because my name's Terry Brown. He started calling me TCB. And I was kind of stuck with the other guys. And I kind of liked it because otherwise I was being called Brownie or, things like, hey, so why not, And so the funny part is he was one of the guys I tracked down when I was writing this book. And when I got him on the phone, I said, "How, TC?" He goes, "Yeah." He said, "I don't know, man. I'm having trouble remembering you." I went, "Really? Okay." So this guy gave me a nickname that changed my life in some ways, and the irony, he can't remember me. That was hilarious. I put
That
that in the
is
book.
hilarious.
Oh yeah, I put it in a book. I've since seen him. We went out to Topsail, North Carolina, a couple years ago, and he came down, stayed with us overnight, and it was great. Yeah, I've got pictures of him and me together. So it's a couple guys like that I hadn't seen, and a couple partners another guy in Savannah, Georgia. So yeah,
That was,
it's been fun. It's been fun, kind of going back in time,
yeah,
like that.
it is.
As
It
you get
is.
older, you think about that stuff, you know.
Yeah, obviously without going into detail, but were there some things that you just couldn't include? It just it
In the
just
book,
wasn't something you wanted to share, yeah, in the book. Did you run across a memory that you thought, "Nah." No?
there could be things I blacked out, but I don't know. I mean, if you read the book, you'll see it's pretty confessional. Yeah, it's
Uh-huh.
pretty confessional. Now, memory can be funny, and
Yeah,
to the
that's
best of
true.
my knowledge, and like I said, like for instance, even I had forgotten I had done this when I was on in Vietnam. Every time our base got hit by rockets and mortars, because I did the intel reports anyway, I made note of that, so I still had all that stuff,
Oh
which
my
was
gosh.
great. Yeah, really. So yeah, I mean, no, there were some things that as I said, I wanted to take out on the last read through, but I didn't.
Uh-huh. Yeah, but
Nothing I can
decided
think of.
not to. That's wonderful. So then you came home. I'm kind of jumping forward a little bit. And what did you do with all those experiences? Were they just kind of put on an emotional shelf, or um, did you just kind of say, well, that was that job, and now I'm going on to college and this job? What did you do with those memories in the meantime between then and the book?
Um, well, some of the experience, I got stationed in Northern California, and I was in the service about another year and a half or so. When I got out, I eventually got a job at Fireman's Fund as a security guard, and I worked there for several years, and it helped me get through college. And So that definitely helped with those experiences. But overall, I don't be honest with you, I don't think I've ever thought about that. That's not a question I've ever pondered that I remember. So yeah, it's an interesting question. Um, yeah, give me a second here. I'm just trying to figure.
Where
Hey,
in the book?
certainly, yeah, certainly when and I point this out in the book, when I left here at 18, I thought, you know, as a kid, we went to Florida a few times and Chicago, but I basically thought every place was like Columbus, Ohio. It's all the, yeah. So when I hit Taiwan and got in a bus and drove down to the base, it's like, holy moly. And I definitely write about that. It's just, I felt like, I think I even said we're a bunch of, like Alice's going down the Asian rabbit hole, I mean, the smells and the sights and these these little shacks lived over these. They had these big benjo ditches, like 25 feet deep, because it's monsoons. They hit there, they have a monsoon,
Oh,
and these people live above the benjo ditches, and their bathrooms are like a hole in the concrete floor. And we would see this. You'd see a guy doing his business upstream and a guy farther down brushing his teeth. We saw that. Yeah, exactly. So a little
yeah,
different standards.
different. Yes.
So that,
Yeah.
let's just say that was a big wake up call. So
Yeah.
I think, yeah, when I came back here, I was not, I still wasn't the smartest guy, but I wasn't naive. I wasn't
Uh-huh.
naive like I had, I
Uh-huh.
had a lot of wake up calls, and including, so when I did researched how to write a memoir, it said start at your lowest point. And so I didn't take me long to figure out what that was, and without giving anything away, I'm pretty sure I did, and that was definitely a very pivotal point in my life and in my time there. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah,
That's that's wonderful.
yeah.
So now you have the book. How long has it been published?
Came out middle of June.
Middle of June.
Middle of
So
June, yeah.
so tell me about marketing a book, especially a self-published book, which I imagine more people are doing now because of the consolidation, because of
Yeah.
what could be perceived as a focus in the larger houses on people who already have a huge following and that sort of thing. So tell us about what it's like for, a normal guy from Columbus, Ohio to be out there marketing your memoir.
It's kind of a pain, to be honest. And it's like I was never good at ringing my own bell or toot my own horn, whatever they say. That's probably a very old saying, but you find like if you don't do it, ain't nobody else gonna do it. So I've to be honest with you, that's when I used AI for the first time. I said, hey, I knew a little bit about marketing. I've been in communication for 34 years and actually worked for a couple of firms that did that stuff. So I'm not totally ignorant, but uh, I thought, hey, I'm looking for ideas, and it spit out some pretty good ideas. Not everything. Yeah, I've learned the hard way. You got to check it for accuracy. Make
Oh.
sure you read every word, and blah blah blah. But nonetheless, it's been very helpful, and started. Well, I knew what I was going to do was post on Facebook because there's
Mm.
at least there's a couple veterans groups on there. Well, one specifically connected to Taiwan. So because of that, the a writer at the Taipei Times saw the post and started asking me about it, and he reviewed it, and he gave me a stellar review, and so that triggered. I should have been in Taiwan then. That triggered me to be on 2 podcasts and a YouTube guy who are popular over there. So that was really good, and I've reached out to some influencers. I got a review in the Vietnam Veterans of America. It's okay. I think the guy could have done a little better on the review. It's just kind of a recitation of the book, but you have to put in a little bit of what you think of it, and was there specific points that, at least that's the way I look at it. But they did a review. So I'm doing this library thing in Gahanna on the 24th of January at 2 o'clock. And, you just keep banging the drum, and I'm going to try to reach out to more influencers. I'm trying to get on podcast All Sides because
Ah.
Ann Fisher's, a former colleague, good friend, and she's gone, but she did talk to the producer, I guess. But I haven't heard anything. It's tough, and I get it, and it's what I've always said is, I'm not going to be John Grisham here. I'll just be me, and if I sell a few books every month, that's great. So and I have been lucky, and every month I've sold a couple, so at least, so that's kind of
So,
cool.
so it sounds like the book has put you in a position to to do some things and to learn some things, that you may or may not have ever thought of. And so I'm going to start with, what do you think of AI? I mean, you've been a writer forever. Um, AI can bring up some different emotions in people. What do you think of it?
Google on steroids. That's the way I no, that's the way I look at it. It's like it can be my personal opinion about the whole thing. Yeah, I think there's some worrisome stuff, Uh I guess we're fine till the robots kill us, right? But I think I don't know. I think it can be a useful tool, but tools are misused. I mean, we just look at the stuff we see now. Remember when the internet started and all that, and we thought,
Exactly.
oh, how's this going to change? I mean, I think AI is going to really drastically change. All kidding aside, it's going to change the world. I think it probably already has, but I don't know. I look now at certain things and I go, is that AI or is this a real video? I never used to do.
Right.
Yeah, is that?
Right.
That's
Yeah.
minor, but still.
No, I understand. I mean, it does call into question, how do we verify what's true and what is being presented, maybe in a less than truthful way. But it is interesting, and absolutely. I mean, the internet was revolutionary, and all the tools and technology that seems to have come out in the last 25 years, or maybe 30 years at this point, has just been mind-blowing. And I think you saw that, and don't let me put words in your mouth, but I think you saw that in the consolidation in the news industry. Did you?
Um, yeah. Oh, I think so. Yeah,
Do you
I think
think the
so.
technology drove
Yeah,
some of the
to
consolidation?
be honest, I'm disconnected from that world. I'm on the outside, but yeah, I'm sure it has. I mean, I know for a while there were stories about AI writing stories.
Yeah,
It wasn't a
yeah.
reporter; it was the AI. That wasn't
Right.
last year or two. So yeah, for sure. Oh, for sure. Uh,
Yeah. So then going back to the marketing just for a minute,
Sure.
I ultimately, has that been fun? I mean, have there been aspects of it, and have you found new parts of yourself that maybe enjoy some of that, or is it more like, I wish I didn't have to do this part of it. I'd rather write.
Um, no, it's like some of it I do like. Getting ready for this Gehenna library thing. I printed out flyers. Today I'm going to take them around on Friday to some of the posts. I've made calls and contacts with some of the veterans posts, and with moderate success. But I'm going to take flyers in. And I haven't posted on my personal Facebook, but I'm gonna do that this weekend. I was gonna do a video, like a short video, and I still might. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. But I might do that and post that because people respond to images and videos.
Mhm.
So if I can
Mhm.
think up something half clever, we'll see.
When you put the book together, did you have an audience in mind, or was it really more of a passion project, just something you wanted to do for you?
More passion project. It fits that veterans are going to like this, especially veterans of that era. One thing I found out, and that thanks to the guy at the Taipei Times, this is the only book that's been written during the Cold War era of American soldiers in that in that region in Taiwan.
Oh,
Uh, yeah, that's what I said. So there's a marketing pitch right there.
yeah.
I need to really put those. I did at one time put some, kind words together, and I need to go back and review that and maybe get a couple more. But
That's
yeah, that's
interesting.
cool. That was very cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so circling back to retirement life, because that's what we're here to talk about, as well as
Sure.
your book, that flash it up one more time, because like I said, I don't have it. So it's Made in America by T.C. Brown.
Try to get that. Can you see that okay?
Yeah, yeah, that's wonderful.
Okay, that's me. I look like I'm in fifth grade there trying to look tough, but when we worked on Town Patrol, it was kind of a swagger thing, because part of our job every night was like checking the bars. So you would
Yeah.
be I remember the first few times I did it, I was nervous as all get out because you kind of stand out. You walk in a bar in cop uniform, it's you, your partner, and then two Chinese cops. That tends
Wow.
to stop conversation.
Oh,
Yeah, and you're on stage, and some people don't like that. And yeah, we had lots of fun.
yeah. No, I know everyone should read the book.
Agreed.
It just it's hard to believe that was 50 years ago. I mean, certainly from my perspective, blank
Too.
and it's gone. But so here you are, retired, doing something new and different. At at some point when you were younger, if you could go back and tell a little bit of pre-retirement advice to a younger version of yourself at whatever age, is there anything that you know now that you wish you had known then to help you prepare better? Or prepare more, I shouldn't say better.
Yeah, well, the one, I think probably a lot of people experience this. It's hard to put aside money. It
Oh,
really is, right? I mean, just and it ain't getting easier.
right. Yeah,
But if you
things are.
can find even a little bit, that's one I've never really did that, until later in life I did, but
Oh,
early on I didn't. I just like, "Ah, I got money, let's go have fun, let's spend it, blah blah blah." Again,
uh-huh.
you're young and I don't know, dumb. So, but yeah, even if it was a tiny bit, because I think that gets you in the habit, and then you build on that. I mean, that would be my main thing. But I
Yeah.
think the way the world is right now, I don't know if are we going to even be experiencing the same things that like when I was younger to the time I retired. The whole job situation. We just talked about AI. AI is going
Yeah.
to be, I play guitar now, and a friend of mine who's played for 40, 50 years. In fact, he's in the book. He was one of my friends in Taiwan. He found this AI music platform called Suno, and I've written a couple of songs. And I mean, it's like an adult toy for musicians. You can plug stuff in, you can get the style you want, and it's still your song. If you wrote the lyrics and wrote the chords, that's your song. But to hear like studio musicians playing it, it's man, what a diff, and it's fun. And so look, that's going to take away jobs. The guys that used to put all that together, right? They don't need those guys anymore. The AI will do it.
Not to do that. Not to do that. I'm hoping, and I'm probably being very Pollyanna, but I'm hoping it just frees those people up to then do something at the next level. That's just me.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. Well, that's I think like AI, we worry about the bad. It can, what's it going to do for medicine? What's it already doing for medicine? My buddy who makes he's a dental tech. He said a lot of the stuff he used to do was done by AI now, but the quality that he puts into it,
Yes.
he thinks that maybe it's not quite the same, but it's just here. It's here.
It's here. It's definitely here. Yeah, interesting. So, what would you say to someone approaching retirement? Do you have words of wisdom, pieces of advice, someone who's maybe closer and kind of staring at it?
Uh, go for it.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, but be prepared. It's great. Like if you don't feel like getting up at 7 o'clock and want to sleep till 8:30, go for it. But also definitely have something in mind that you want to do, like whether it's a hobby. For me, like guitar. For a while I did volunteer work at a library, a food thing, food pantry, and a dog shelter thing. But I was doing a lot of bending and didn't realize I had all this arthritis in my lower back, and that didn't like that. And so yeah, it put me down for a little while. So I don't do that kind of stuff anymore. But I try to help out where I can. I'm with writing stuff if somebody needs something like that. I'm working for a group, a pro democracy group, Ohio 5051. I'm doing Blue Sky for them.
Oh, fabulous.
Yeah, so that all that stuff keeps you busy. And I'm gonna write another book. I mean, I'm writing songs, which I really like, but I'm gonna write another book. I've got some ideas. I don't really have a total plot yet, but I want to. And I thought this is not going to be a pressure up thing. Definitely want to work on it every week, but I'm not going to worry about it if I miss a day or I don't need that. So I'll see how far I get. It's going to be fiction, so I've never written fiction. So, although some people, when I was in the newspaper business, said I was writing fiction,
Oh my
not
gosh.
things.
Well, interestingly, is there any kind of ritual or anything that you do now? I'm going to say to keep yourself going. It sounds like you plan plenty of purposeful stuff, but is there anything in particular that you either make it a point to do each day, each week, anything like that?
Oh yeah, for sure. Since like I said, I was in 2024, I was in a bad way for a goodly number of months with my back, but it's knocking
Oh,
on wood, it's come back. And I go to the gym. Well, I've been getting there 3 days a week. And try to walk 4 or 5 hours a week. At least. And that's, I feel way better, and I want to, that scared me when I was laid up. For a while, I was sleeping in a recliner and I couldn't leave my house except to
oh
go
my
in the cockpit.
gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Let's just say I was in a dark place for a while.
Absolutely.
But got through it, and again, another learning lesson, right? I don't know, maybe I can use that in something I write. Who knows?
Yeah. No, I think that's so key. I mean, everything you read is motion, motion, motion,
Yeah,
motion. My
yeah,
daughter's
these
a
stories, yeah.
Yeah, but my daughter's a dietitian and she's like, what you eat is helpful, but what you need to do is keep moving. And I find that really interesting. Well, so one last thing that I want to ask you, because I find this particularly interesting, is how does your retirement journey differ from your parents?
Well, my father died very early, like he was 50. So
Oh, I'm so sorry.
yeah, that was a long. That's the one time I came back twice when I was in Taiwan. And that was the one time I had come here for like Christmas,
Ah.
and then I had gone back in ready to go to Vietnam. And just before I left for Vietnam, he passed away
Oh my
suddenly.
God.
So I came right back. And so, yeah. So anyway, but my mom, she ended up working for the state, oil and gas, ooh, 20 some years, I'm pretty sure. And I don't remember what age she was when she retired, but she was looking forward to it. And my mom was fun. She liked to do fun things, and she traveled a lot. So in that sense, Mary and I traveled a lot too. Now I haven't done much traveling in the last year or two, but I'm planning on that this year. I've already got a little list, priority to go here first, there. Hopefully I'll get some of them. But so yeah, she traveled a lot, and just enjoyed being home and having friends where she lived. And nothing
She didn't write a book?
spectacular. No, she didn't write a book. She did not, but her sister, my aunt, it's so funny because you said that, because my aunt always used to tell me, before she passed away, you're going to write a book. You're going to write a book. So maybe she's the one that planted that seed. I mean, she told me that many, many times, and I wasn't at the time planning to write a book. So,
Didn't John Montgomery have a relative who said the same thing to him?
oh,
You
he
can have
was.
these psychic relatives.
Yeah.
No, I swear, I think he did. I
Yeah.
really
Oh,
think.
he probably did. Oh, I'll have to ask him. I'll ask him.
Oh my gosh.
That's true.
Well, TC Brown, I can't thank you enough for
Oh,
being
yeah.
with me
Thank-
today. This is so much fun. I love hearing your story, and I'm just so excited for you to have written the book. If you don't mind, to prop it up one more time. Let's get it
Oh,
on
for sure.
camera one more
Yeah.
time.
Get your
Good.
cameras out, kids.
Yeah.
All right. I'll try to quit moving it.
Yeah, no, I can't thank you enough. Is there anything else? Is there anything that we didn't talk about that you wanted to share with people about your journey or the book or anything?
No, you know what? Enjoy life, especially if you
Yeah.
got your health, right? I mean, it's one thing I found out that sometimes there's no later. You think, later, but sometimes, yeah, there's no later. So, yeah, that's what I recommend. That's what I try to do. I can't say I do it every day, but I think most part.
Yeah.
Staying busy helps. Staying busy helps, That's, I don't know how I had to.
Ending, but a reinvention.